Welcome back to my channel. I'm Traven, and in today's video we're going to be doing a review for Void Rivals as well as my top 3 non-Transformers transforming toys. Let's get into it. Void Rivals is the sister series to Image's newest Transformers series. The Transformers series is written by my current comic book crush, Daniel Warren Johnson, and Void Rivals is written by Robert Kirkman, who wrote Walking Dead, Super Dinosaur, Invincible, some pretty high-profile names on these titles. While Void Rivals takes place in the same universe as the Transformers comic, it is not following Transformers characters, and because of that, we're going to talk about transforming toys I have that aren't Transformers. So, we're going to start with number 3 on the top 3 list, and that is my Candroids. So I have 3 Candroids here. These come from a Kamen Rider series. I believe this was Kamen Rider O's did the Candroids, and they all transform into different things. This one is probably the best one, Pterodactyl. So you can just pop the top there, split that apart, flip this out, and then you have a cool Pterodactyl. All of them have gimmicks as well. The Pterodactyls is like the weakest gimmick. So you can pull off the tail, put it in here, and it's supposed to make like a chirping sound, you know, like a pterodactyl. I don't know. It's okay. But the pterodactyl itself is pretty great. The other 2 I have are an octopus and a triceratops. This one's a triceratops. Flip it out. That. And now it is a Triceratops. And this gimmick is also not that great. You can push the horn in, and then we're going to have to get real close here. Boop! Pop the top. Bring it out. And then I'll have to find... There it is. That's the leg that's broken. So right now it's more of a septopus. You turn the head and then you let it go and it goes woo. Now in the show these flew, right? So these were like flying across the sky to help out the hero character. So collectively I'm going to say those are my number 3. They're a lot of fun. My kids love these as well. But that is the reason why they're broken. So, Void Rivals starts off with probably the best meet cute I have ever read. So you have 2 people on opposite sides of this conflict, Durak and Solila, and they look on the surface to be very different from each other. So this is Durak here. This is Solila, right? In their armor, in their like suits, they look quite a bit different. They shoot each other down on this unknown planet, and they take off their masks, and they're like, "Oh, I bet all the people on your civilization are disgusting and ugly, and I hear you kill babies, whatever." But they take off their masks, and it turns out that no, they look pretty much exactly the same. The one major difference is they both have gems on their head, and they're different shapes. That's the biggest separator between the 2 of them. They are trapped, and now they have to Frankenstein their ships together to have any chance of getting off this planet. The ship that they put together completely sucks. Once they are able to escape orbit and get out into deep space, then they have I think a several years journey to get back to their home planet at the speed that they're able to accomplish with this new messed up ship that they've been able to create, and things just get crazier from there. Setup is one of the most engaging parts of the story, and it really does get you invested in both these characters very quickly, and the conflict between these 2 sides of this war that serves as the backdrop for a lot of the problems that the 2 face throughout the comic. My number 2 non-transforming Transformer toy is this more recent Megazord figure. So this is I think it's Flame Toys. This was a Flame Toys Megazord, and it is, first of all, just like a completely amazing, completely awesome reimagining of the character, right? You've got the wings in the back that look very cool. It has a lot of really nice shelf presence. The transformation is very close to the original. You have the different parts that the Zord made in the show, still making those same parts and still transforming roughly the same way. It also has this rather impressive tail on the back, which is articulated very nicely. A lot more articulation than you get on a typical Sentai mech. So the ones that Japan puts out are like notoriously lacking in any kind of movement. They just tend to move the arms up and down, and sometimes will move the legs. So that's also like a very welcome change in this version. The reason why this is not number one, despite the amazing production, and it was quite expensive as well, is that the transformation sequence for this is just overly complicated, and the instructions it came with were not super helpful. So now that I have it in Megazord form, I don't know the next time I'm going to want to sit down and actually get this separated into its composite parts. But it still is just so cool and has such an amazing presence. You can do so much with it that I'm very happy with the purchase, and I'm very happy with the toy. So that's my number 2. Void Rivals makes the very smart decision not to make the characters Transformers characters, although they do run into Transformers universe concepts, the Quintessons and some other alien races that were introduced in the original cartoon. But I think it was a good idea not to make the main characters Transformers and to not make this a second Transformers comic. Back when I was in college, there was a run from IDW that I think was trying to do a very similar thing, where they had a terrestrial story, a story taking place on Cybertron, and then a story taking place on a ship, the Lost Light, and it would bounce back and forth between those. If you wanted to get the full story, you had to read both. It was confusing sometimes trying to keep track of like which characters are in which comic and what were the events happening. I think by making it to where these aren't Transformers characters, where they're original ideas and original alien race, I think it helps separate out the two stories a lot more cleanly. But this is trying to be the space opera to the Image Transformers, more crunchy, metal, violent comic that it is shaping up to be. This is much more about like subterfuge and identity and like trying to blend in, trying to be secretive. I believe it is slowly moving toward a stronger tie-in with the Transformers and with the Transformers line. The society that these two come from, they are two sides of this like ringed planet, or this ringed space structure, like this superstructure in space. And both sides, the leaders, are committed to stopping unification at all costs. And at the very end, we got a hint as to why. So one of the leaders talks about how if the two sides unite, it would bring out the Goliath, and that he is going to have to call Proximus. So I believe there is a Proximus character in the Transformers universe lore. I have my suspicions that Goliath might actually be Unicron, or a Unicron stand-in, especially given the variant cover for the reissues of Void Rivals and Transformers #1. So here are the covers. So here we have the Void Rivals side, a bunch of the characters in Void Rivals. The leader that was talking about that is this guy right here. And then on this side we have the Transformers side. We've got Starscream there, Optimus Prime, a bunch of the characters that have shown up in that side. You put them together, and at the top of the image here, very prominent in the background is that giant face. That very well might be Unicron. So I've not read past what I have in the trades. I imagine at this point that has been revealed, but that's my assumption moving forward, is that the Void Rivals line is going to end up having a stronger tie to Transformers in the future. My number one non-Transformers transforming toy, and that is going to be this Magidragon / Magiking. So this is in dragon form. This comes from Maho Sentai Magiranger, what we called Mystic Force in the States. And my only, so what's really cool about this, it is 5 robots, like, put together. You've got a fairy, you've got a minotaur, mermaid, warrior, and I think this is supposed to be like a Garuda maybe, put together. And they can come together in this dragon form, or they can come together in a different form, which is Magiking. So I'm going to transform it and then talk a little bit more about why I like this toy so much. But already, just the dragon is so cool. My one complaint about it is because of the transformation, there's this giant thing in his mouth at all times, but it looks much better when the mouth is shut. But we'll get it transformed, and I'll talk about what is so much fun about this toy. And now it is Magiking. So just the engineering on this thing, there's something about the way that everything comes together, and the fact that it can make the 4 separate robots, and then the dragon, and then this cool warrior, this cool fighter wizard, is all just really neat to me. Articulation on this is almost non-existent. Like I said, with Super Sentai Mechs, it's basically just like, here are ratcheted shoulders. But just the fun of moving him around and changing him from one to the other is really great. And then the gimmick for this season was the chest parts of the mechs could come off. And if you had other toys from the same line, you could transform another part and put it in that same chest piece. So I do have one, but I'm not going to get it down. So there was a train, and like one of the train pieces would have fit in here and made it slightly different. And then there was a villain character that you could also snap in as the chest bit for the mech. So I don't know. I just really enjoy it. I love that it's a dragon. I love that it's also a cool mech, and you can do both and just have a lot of fun with it. So this is my number one non-Transformers transforming toy. I think Void Rivals is the perfect sister series to the Transformers comic that's going on right now. Transformers is a violent, bombastic, over-the-top action fest with a number of really gripping moments, but also very violent moments. Whereas this is a more subdued space opera, a lot more mystery going on in the story. The decisions being made across the board for this universe are allowing each series to really shine on its own, but be further enhanced if you are reading the other comic and if you have an appreciation for the background of these alien races and of these characters that are showing up in Void Rivals. I gave Void Rivals a 5 out of 5. I love Duroc and Solila's relationship slowly building over the course of this comic. Their constant fear of the other backstabbing them, the constant threat of falling back into the conflict that they find themselves in by virtue of where they were born. The tie-ins with Transformers lore and the Transformers comic are fun if you recognize them, but I don't think are a requirement for enjoying the ride. If you are a Robert Kirkman fan and you want to see him take on more of a sci-fi, planet hopping, character centered narrative, and we know that Kirkman does character focused work very well, I think you'd also get a lot of enjoyment out of Void Rivals without having to read G.I. Joe or Transformers. I don't think those are required reading. If that sounds like something interesting to you, you should definitely pick up Void Rivals. I think Volume 2 will be out sometime later this year, and so we'll get more of these two and their tenuous relationship as they learn and grow together. Thanks for coming by and listening to me talk about another great comic book series and some more great toys that I love to discuss. I hope your reading journey is going well. I hope you're having a great summer and loving the content that you're consuming, whether that's comic books, novels, poetry, sci-fi, fantasy, horror, whatever it might be. The important thing is that you're having a good time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so we can grow this corner of our BookTube community. Check out these videos to see some of the other stuff that's going on in my channel recently. And until the next one, take care.